The power of being alone. Let me ask you something. When's the last time you sat in silence, just you, no distractions, no noise, no phone, no validation? Most people can't do it. They can't handle it because it forces them to face the one thing they avoid the most, themselves. Being alone is where the real work begins. In solitude, you strip away the lies, the excuses, the comfort. There's no one to tell you it's okay, take a break. There's no one to clap for your half-ass effort. Just you, your thoughts, and the brutal truth. And guess what? Most people run from that. They drown themselves in entertainment, in social media, in meaningless conversations because they're too scared to be alone. But let me tell you something. Solitude is a weapon. The ones who master it, they become savages. They become untouchable. When you choose to be alone, you stop seeking approval. You stop needing validation. You realize that the real competition is you versus you. Every second spent alone is a second sharpening your mind, toughening your soul, and building the kind of resilience that no one can take from you. They'll call you crazy. They'll say you're wasting your time. Good. Let them talk while you work. Because in the end, when the lights are off and the crowd is gone, all that's left is what you built in the dark. So embrace the silence, chase the discomfort, stand alone, and watch yourself become unstoppable. Solitude is a weapon, not a weakness. Most people are terrified of being alone. You know why? Because when you're alone, there's no one to blame, no one to complain to, no distractions, no noise, just you and the truth. And that truth, it's ugly. It tells you that you're weak, undisciplined, that you haven't been putting in the work. It doesn't sugarcoat. It doesn't care about your feelings. That's why people run from solitude. They fill their lives with noise, with meaningless conversations, with social media, with anything that keeps them from facing themselves. But here's the thing. Solitude is where you build yourself, is where you strip away the bullshit and get down to what really matters, who you are when no one's watching. Weak people see solitude as loneliness. They think being alone means being lost. But the strongest minds, the warriors, the savages, the ones who rise above, they seek it out. They use it. They sit in the silence and let it break them down because that's the only way to rebuild stronger. Think about it. The greatest fighters, the toughest soldiers, the most relentless athletes, they all spent time in solitude. They didn't rely on motivation. They didn't need a hype squad. They got up and did the work because it was in them. Because they trained their minds to thrive in the darkness, without applause, without validation. You want to be unstoppable? You want to build something that can't be broken? Then stop looking for comfort and start embracing solitude. Because in that silence, you'll either find your strength or you'll prove to yourself that you never had any. Silence is where the work begins. Most people can't handle silence. The second things get quiet, they start reaching for their phone, turning on the TV, calling someone, anything to fill the void. You know why? Because silence is where the truth shows up. And the truth, it's a motherfucker. It tells you everything you don't want to hear. It exposes every weakness, every excuse, every shortcut you've been taking. But here's what separates the strong from the weak. Some people run from that truth and some people face it head on. When everything goes quiet, that's when the work starts. That's when you sit with yourself and realize I'm not as disciplined as I should be. I'm not as tough as I pretend to be. I've been coasting. And most people can't handle that kind of honesty. So they keep drowning themselves in noise, in distractions, in fake validation, just to avoid the work. But if you want to level up, if you want to become the kind of person that doesn't break, you have to sit in that silence and let it do its job. You have to let it strip away your excuses and force you to see reality for what it is. Because in the end, the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the work you're avoiding. You don't get stronger by talking about it. You don't get disciplined by posting about it. You get there by putting in the reps when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when it's just you and the grind. That's where champions are built. That's where savages are made. So the next time you feel that silence creeping in, don't run from it. Step into it. Own it. Let it call you out and then use that truth to get to work, being alone kills comfort. Comfort is a disease. It sneaks up on you, wraps around you like a warm blanket, and before you know it, you're soft, you're weak. You're sitting there making excuses about why you're not where you want to be. And you know what keeps people comfortable? Distractions, noise, other people's opinions. They surround themselves with fake motivation, with validation, with people telling them they're doing enough. Enough. Enough for who? Enough for what? That's why they never push past their limits, because they're too damn comfortable. But when you're alone, that comfort dies. There's no one to tell you it's okay to quit. No one to hand you excuses. No one to gas you up for doing the bare minimum. It's just you in reality. And reality is cold. It's brutal. It doesn't give a damn about your feelings. Being alone forces you to confront yourself in a way most people will never do. It strips away the lies. It forces you to ask the hard questions. Am I really working as hard as I say I am? Am I actually disciplined? Or do I just look disciplined on social media? Do I even have what it takes? Or have I been faking it this whole time? Most people can't handle those questions. That's why they keep drowning themselves in comfort. That's why they keep looking for distractions. Because if they sat alone for even 5 minutes, they'd realize they're not who they pretend to be. But you're different. You're the kind of person who kills comfort before it kills you. You step into that silence. You embrace the loneliness. Because you know on the other side of that discomfort is growth, power, and the kind of mindset that can't be broken. You meet your true self in solitude. When you're alone, there's no mask to wear, no audience, no filters, no one to impress, just you and the raw, unfiltered truth. And most people, they don't want to see that truth. They're scared of it. That's why they surround themselves with noise, friends, social media, TV, whatever keeps them distracted. Because deep down they know that if they sat in silence, if they stripped everything away, they wouldn't like what they see. They'd see the weaknesses they've been avoiding. They'd see the undisciplined, excuse-making version of themselves they try to hide. But here's the thing, you can't fake it in solitude. You can lie to the world, you can post motivational quotes, you can talk about your grind, but when you're alone, there's no hiding. That mirror doesn't lie. That silence doesn't give a damn about your excuses. And that's exactly why solitude is so powerful. Because if you have the guts to face yourself, you have the power to change yourself. The people who fear being alone, they're the ones running from the truth. The ones who embrace solitude, they're the ones who build something real. They sit with themselves, they listen to that inner voice, even when it's telling them things they don't want to hear, and they do the work. Because at the end of the day, the only thing standing between you and greatness is the person in the mirror. And if you don't like who that person is, there's only one solution: change it. The world will doubt you. Good. The second you decide to step up, to do something different, to push past what's normal, the world is going to come for you. They'll laugh, they'll doubt you, they'll say you're crazy. That's exactly what you want. Because when people doubt you, it means you're doing something they don't have the guts to do. It means you're moving in the right direction. Weak people hate seeing someone break away from the pack. It reminds them of their own failures, their own laziness, their own lack of discipline. So instead of stepping up themselves, they try to pull you back down. They tell you it can't be done, not because it's true, but because they can't do it. But here's what they don't understand. Doubt is fuel. Every time they say you won't make it, every time they roll their eyes, every time they try to write you off, you take that doubt and you let it feed you. You let it push you to train harder, to work longer, to become so undeniable that when they see you succeed, they have no choice but to shut the hell up. You have two choices. You can let the world's doubt break you, or you can use it to build something they never saw coming. The ones who make history, the ones who change the game, they're the ones who take that doubt and turn it into domination. The strongest minds are forged in isolation. You want to know why most people never reach their full potential? Because they're scared to be alone. They need the noise, the crowd, the validation. They need someone clapping for them, checking in on them, pushing them forward. But the strongest minds, the real savages, they don't need that shit. They go into isolation. they disappear. They cut out the distractions, the comfort, the weak-minded voices telling them to take it easy. Because they know if you can't push yourself when no one's watching, you're never going to make it when the pressure's on. Look at the greatest warriors, the best athletes, the most unbreakable people in history. They all had a season of isolation, a time when they walked away from the noise, when they got deep in the trenches, when they put in the work while everyone else was comfortable. Because that's where the real growth happens, not in front of an audience, not in the spotlight, in the dark, alone. That's where you find out what you're really made of. When it's just you and the grind. No applause, no recognition, no one checking in to see if you're still going. Just discipline, pain, and the will to keep moving forward. Most people break in that silence. You get stronger because every second you spend in isolation, sharpening your mind, hardening your soul, you're becoming the kind of person who doesn't need motivation, who doesn't need external hype because the fire is already inside you. Loneliness and solitude are not the same. Most people think being alone means being lonely. That's because they don't understand the difference between needing people and choosing to stand alone. Weak minds fear solitude because they need constant noise, validation, and distractions to feel like they matter. But solitude is where the strong go to build themselves. Loneliness is when you feel empty without people around. Solitude is when you're so locked in, so focused, so self-sufficient that you don't need anyone to push you. You push yourself. Loneliness makes people weak. It makes them desperate for attention, for approval, for anything that makes them feel seen. They jump from one distraction to another, terrified of sitting alone with their own thoughts. But solitude, that's a weapon. That's where you separate yourself from the pack. Because when you master solitude, you master your mind. You learn to thrive without external motivation. You don't need a hype squad. You don't need people to check on you. You wake up, you handle your business, and you get stronger because that's just who you are. Most people will never understand this. They'll tell you you need balance, you need to be more social, you shouldn't isolate yourself, but look around. How many of those people are actually winning? How many of them are really putting in the work? They're too busy being connected to realize they're stuck in the same place. Solitude is where the greats are made. It's where you find out what you're truly capable of. When you embrace it, you stop depending on the world to keep you going because you become the kind of person who doesn't need anyone to keep moving forward. The power of being alone, at the end of the day, everything comes down to one simple truth. You versus you. Most people will never understand the power of being alone. They'll spend their whole lives running from it, drowning themselves in distractions, afraid to face who they really are. But the ones who embrace solitude, the ones who step into the silence, who put in the work when no one's watching, they become unstoppable. Because solitude isn't weakness, it's a weapon. It forces you to confront your demons, to break through your limits, to develop a mind that doesn't crack under pressure. The world will doubt you. Good, let them. While they're watching, talking, and making excuses, you'll be grinding in the dark, sharpening your edge, turning yourself into something they never saw coming. So, stop looking for comfort. Stop waiting for approval. Stop needing the noise. Be alone, get to work, and become the kind of person who doesn't just survive in solitude, you fucking thrive in it. And when the time comes, when you finally step out of that solitude, when you unleash everything you built in the dark, the world won't know what hit them. Because while they were wasting time feeding their egos, surrounding themselves with distractions, you were becoming a different breed, a savage, a warrior, someone who doesn't need motivation, validation, or a pat on the back to keep moving forward. They'll look at you and wonder how the hell you got so strong, so disciplined, so relentless. And the truth is, they'll never understand because they weren't there. They didn't see the sleepless nights, the early mornings, the brutal self-reflection, the pain, the silence. But you did. You lived it. You embraced it. You built yourself from the ground up. And now you don't need anyone's approval because you already know exactly who you are. So let them doubt, let them talk, let them stay comfortable. You're built different now because when you went into solitude, you didn't break. You came back unbreakable.